Greetings, punks, goths, metalheads, Romans and countrymen. How you're all doing? My name's John and this is the Health Anarchist channel. Well, today this is my second attempt at doing a video because I went out yesterday right up in the hills on a Roman road, but the weather was so windy. It was the middle of a storm basically just before it started raining, and the conditions were too bad to make a video. So I'm out again today making this video. I'll just show you a clip of what it was like yesterday. So today I'm going to be doing a video which is talking a bit about the Roman presence in this part of the UK, particularly the northwest, and really about Tameside, Glossop and Oldham areas. Now in this video I'm going to be illustrating with some AI created art. Now this is artwork that I created on the computer. Now saying now the equipment and clothing is not historically accurate, it is just AI, but I've done it to spark your imagination and to just give you a flavour of perhaps what it was like in this part of the country in Roman times. I also managed to take a little bit of footage of the Roman road while I was up there, so I'm going to be putting that in along with some of the images that I created. So I think a lot of people, when we think about the Romans in Britain, they probably think about the classic Roman legionnaire in his silver, highly polished, shining armour and his clothes that are brightly coloured and freshly out of the washing machine. But for this area in Britain, that's not true where I am, at least, because the people who were in Roman Britain in this area, the soldiers, they weren't even Italian Romans. They were people recruited from different parts of the Roman Empire and were called auxiliaries. Now it was the Roman legionnaires, not the auxiliaries, that wore the classic type Roman armour, the Roman plate armour, which was the lorica segmentata, and the auxiliaries wore different armour and had slightly different equipment than the Roman legionnaires. Now the armour that the Roman auxiliary soldiers wore was called lorica amata, which was a chainmail, and sometimes they wore the scale mail, and that was the lorica squatmata. So a lot of the time they wouldn't have even been wearing their armour doing day-to-day tasks, especially in an area that they occupied where they had forts, where it was peaceful and they weren't at war. When they were going into battle, they'd definitely wear their armour, or if they were marching somewhere and there was a risk of being attacked, then they would wear their armour. But for a lot of the time they wouldn't be wearing it around camp anyway. For the northern regions of Britain, the Roman auxiliaries would wear a type of trouser to keep the legs warm, and you can imagine that round there, the weather's can get pretty grim, and they would have been wearing cloaks, and I imagine a lot of the time to keep warm. By the mid-2nd century there were about 70 auxiliary regiments in Britain, which was a total of over 40,000 men. These outnumbered the 16,500 Italian Roman legionaries in Britain, and there was 3 legions of those, so they outnumbered them by 2.5 to 1, and these were non-Roman auxiliary troops. An auxiliary soldier wore different equipment to the Roman legions, which I've just covered. There was also paid less than the Roman legions, but an auxiliary that served 25 years was granted a Roman citizenship, and that was the incentive for a lot of the auxiliaries to join. And the auxiliaries were formed into cohorts of 480 men, so that was a unit, it was called a cohort, 480 men, and these would usually occupy a fort. So Roman Britain has the remains of over 400 camps that we know of, but some of these were either temporary or practice operations for engineers and soldiers to hone their fort building skills. On the main parts, these were manned by auxiliaries most of the time. So I'm now going to talk a bit about the kind of units that were in this local area of Manchester, Tameside, Glossop and Oldham. So the forts local to me, firstly Castleshaw, that was manned by Portuguese auxiliary soldiers, so they were from what would be modern day Portugal, and that was a country that the Roman Empire had conquered, so they'd recruited those auxiliaries there and brought them over to Britain. And the second nearest fort to me is Milandra Castle near Glossop. Now that was garrisoned by auxiliaries from Portugal too, but they've also found traces of a auxiliary unit who were recruited in German, so they would have been German auxiliaries. Now at Castleshaw there could have been other units as well, but we've only found traces of the unit from Portugal. So I think a lot about history is about trying to imagine what things were like then and working it out with bits of evidence that we've found and generally thinking about it. And that's why I've included these images, these computer generated AI images today. I know they're not accurate as the equipment and the uniforms, but it's just trying to spark your imagination and try to get you to think about it. And I think the images, for that giving you a general flavour, I think they're quite effective. So the actual classic Roman Italian legionnaires, what people think about mainly when they think about Rome and Roman legions, they were based in huge legionary bases. In England it was York, Chester and Lincoln, and they were like full legions there. I think it was about 5,000 or 6,000 soldiers. So they had all the mod cons of the big legionary bases, putting the feet up, I imagine. And poor auxiliaries, they were stuck in these really dreary, dismal places at the back of nowhere. I think they had it a lot tougher than the legionnaires, to be honest. And just thinking about how hard it would have been really bleak and tough in winter. So seeing that horse just then on my walk, that's reminded me that in Roman times there would have been a lot of horses and mules and stuff on the Roman roads carrying supplies around. So when I'm thinking about Roman Britain, then yeah, there would have been a lot of horses and pack animals about, especially on the Roman roads. But I think life was a lot harder back then, and I think the incentive, they were getting paid and fed, and they had the Roman citizenship at the end of 25 years service. And just thinking about, these were people with actual real lives, real thoughts, real ambitions, real fears, and they're just kind of like lost like grains of sand in the streams of time. I think this picture that I did here, this was quite haunting when I looked at this picture when it was finished. I'll just show it you now. Kind of looking into the eyes of someone from the past in a way, even though it's artificially created, but I do like that one. Now, the centurions, like the captains or officers of the auxiliaries, they could be Roman, as likely as not. They might not be, but there could have been a few Romans in the area as the centurions in charge of the auxiliaries, but the vast part of the Roman presence in this part of the country where I am, it would have been non-Romans auxiliaries. It would have been Portuguese auxiliaries or the German auxiliaries in the area where I am anyway. So I hope this video's helped you think a little bit about history today, and particularly Roman history in Britain. And there's a good chance that where you live there's traces of a Roman past, possibly even a fort near you or a Roman road. So I hope there is, and I hope it gets you thinking about it a bit. So I'm going to wrap this video up now for today. Thanks for watching and coming with me. If you did like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care now. Bye.